Hey, welcome back. Nice to see you again for part 6 of this create a QuickBooks clone with no code using Bubble. Right, so we spent a lot of time so far on the not on the dashboard, on the navigator, and getting that looking how we want it for our SureBooks system. But now what we want to do is to start to get into the meat and gravy of this system, and that is looking at putting data in and getting lists of data, which is what really matters. So in QuickBooks we have this customers and leads, and they have two sections there, customers and marketing. Marketing is really about the fact that they acquired MailChimp and they want you to use it. So we're not going to look to implement that at this stage, so if at all, but certainly not at this stage. So customers is what we're looking at. So what we need to do then is, we can't just put this together, we need to have the data prepared so that we can utilize all of this and get these results and all of this type of thing. And obviously we get these lists here. We don't need this little thing there, we can get rid of that. So obviously we've got a list of customers, we've got like a little dashboard that tells you the basic information, and yeah, we need database that's going to drive all of this. So if we create a new customer, let's have a look at that. Okay, so we've got basic contact information there, the company name, company display name. Okay, oh, you can put a different name in if you want it to, if you want to display a different name or something like that. Okay, all right, fair enough. Email address, phone number, mobile number, fax. Does anybody use fax anymore? Okay, we'll be a bit more modern than that, shall we say, a bit more, yeah, 21st century, and we'll put something else instead of fax. Other, website. Okay, is this a sub customer of another customer? Right, that's interesting. Right, okay, so then we've got address. Now I think what these buttons along the top are is that they drag you down to the next section. Yeah, there we go. So okay, fair enough. And then we've got the address, which has got a street address, city, county, postcode, country. That links to a map. We can certainly look to do that, but maybe not just yet. Shipping address, same as the billing address. Oh, okay, so you tick that. Okay. Notes and attachments, fine. Payments, right, okay. So you can see that as we're going through this, there are lots of other sub data types that we can create, but we're not going to do it at this point. We need to sort of keep things as simple as possible, as early as possible with this. Now this to me looks like I mean, you've got payment terms there. Again, that would require its own data set. So it looks like quite a flat structure from what I can see. VAT registration number, that's the UTR, that's to do with the taxes in the UK. Opening balance, that's quite a good idea, but that involves creating a transaction. So what we'll do for the time being, again, let's try and do this in stages and keep it simple. Luckily for us is that QuickBooks seems to have like quite a flat structure, so there's no multiple addresses apart from 2. So in other words, you've not got an unlimited number of addresses, there's not multiple contacts allowed. So let's stick with what they've got there. So yeah, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to wireframe the data out. You should never just load up Bubble and start typing out your data types and your fields and things like that. That's not the good way to do it. It's best to get a better visualization of what you can do. And I use this thing called Lucid Chart. It's free to use up to a certain limit. For example, I think you can have 3 different diagrams, and there's a limit to the number of things you can have on a diagram. But yeah, just lucidchart.com. Just go to that and use that. There's not an affiliate link, by the way. I'm not trying to sell this, it's just showing you what I use. What you will need to do, because we don't want to use any of these, is there's a thing here under shapes, which is on this left hand side, shapes. There's a thing called shape library with a plus. Click that, and if we scroll down we get this thing called an entity relationship, and that's what we want to do for our data. So we'll say use selected shapes, and then we get these here. So this one looks good to me, where we've got the name of the entity, which is the data type or the table, whatever you want to call it, and the field and the type. So we'll drop one of these in here. or you got to drag it in. Okay, right. So let's look at this from the top level, okay, rather than just looking at it from the customer level. Okay, so this is a SaaS application. So if you can imagine, what we need then is a way to store our subscriptions. Who's our customer? Who's our SaaS customer, if you like? And if you watched any of the previous videos that I've done before I started doing this, I always call this one a SaaS account. So it's your customer, it's the user of your software, the actual customer account. And the way that I often work this is that they can then have multiple companies, okay, within their SaaS account. So in QuickBooks it works slightly differently, and I know it does, because in QuickBooks what happens is you have a what you do with QuickBooks is that you have to pay a subscription for every company that you have. So for example, if I go and have a look at my settings on here, we've got accountant settings. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, advanced, I think it's under, is it? I wanted billing and subscription. Okay, so I'm on a trial at the minute, but that's what it's going to cost me unless I start paying for it in 16 days. £32 a month plus VAT. Now if I want to add another company onto that, I've then got to pay another subscription. I can hang it off a basic like a core account, but fundamentally each company has to have its own subscription. Okay, you can say that's a good thing. It's certainly a good thing for Intuit, but it's a good thing for customers, I'm not so sure. We're not going to do that. I don't really like doing that. So what we're going to do with this one is that they can have a main subscription that's going to have all of their core subscriptions in there, and then they can have multiple companies. They might pay for each company, but they certainly won't need a separate subscription for each company. So let's just call that company. Okay, and again let's just that out so we got a bit more space. Okay, so a company is linked to a SaaS account. Okay, so if you, like I say, if you've seen any of my videos, especially on privacy rules in Bubble, you'll know that this is kind of how I name my things. Okay, so a SaaS account is like for your overall subscription. So you sign up to SureBooks and you will get a core subscription that will have your billing information, when it's going to expire, what are the maximum number of companies you're allowed, what are the maximum number of users that you're allowed, the plan that you're on, for example. So let's just have this. So obviously you're going to need a name. Okay, so that's going to be a type of text. Okay, and on here we've got a company that links to a SaaS account. So what we can do with that one is enter, let's hook that up to this particular field. Okay, let's just I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll drag that over to this one so it makes a bit more sense. So we can start to see that we can see things a bit more visually this way. You can't really do this in Bubble. So let's say, for example, on here that we have something like an expiry date, which is obviously going to be a date. Okay, and let's say maximum companies, maximum company, which is going to be a number. Okay, we're not implementing this at the minute, but this is it. So let's just add another couple on there. So what we can do, they say max users, which again is going to be a number, and let's say we've got an expiry date. Okay, and that's going to be a date. Oh, I've already put expiry date in, sorry. Right, okay, so we'll leave it at that anyway for now. We'll just put those fields in there. So with the company, what we've got there is we need to hook up to the SaaS account. That's what that's doing. So we can put name, and that's going to be a text, and this obviously is going to be of type SaaS account. Okay, so we're looking at things from a high level to implement our SaaS system. Okay, and there's lots of other things that we can put in there as well. One of the things that you can put in, for example, is to put a list of users, for example. So let's have ourselves drag ourselves another entity on there, and let's call this users. Okay, actually I always call it user. It doesn't matter, it's an automatically defined data type anyway in Bubble, so you don't get a choice about it. But with the others, I never put plural on the name of the table or the types, whatever. So what we'll do is we'll have last name, and if you are going to do the sensible thing, which is to wireframe and design your data out like this, I would say always make sure it's up to date, so that your data in Bubble, don't just ever fly into Bubble and start creating tables and types and fields and things like this. The best thing to do is to do it first in a wireframe, see if it makes sense, and then make a copy of that, and then just keep that as like your live wireframe, so that you can always go back to it and you know that all of that represents the data that's in Bubble. And then when you've updated it, then go into Bubble and then do it as well. So email is a standard field that they've got in there. So what did we say? We had an image, which is of type image, and then this has to be hooked up to a SaaS account as well. So each user has to belong to a SaaS account. Okay, so we will say SaaS account, and we can say that is of type SaaS account. Okay, so, and obviously then what we can do is to then drag that over here, so we can start get like a picture of where our data connects and how it all figures together. Okay, what we need to do really with the company now is to have a look at how QuickBooks does that. So remember we went into settings a moment ago, so let's have a look at account and settings and see what we have to store. So we've got a company name, we've got a legal name, we've got a registration number. Company's house is something in the UK. So we've got company name, legal name, so that must be like a display name or something. That's the actual legal name. Tax forms, we're not going to really implement this thing here. Contact info. Okay, so let's start putting that in there. So you've got company name and legal name. Where are we? Company name and legal name. So that we'll just leave that as name, and we'll say, what I like to do with these type of things is just to put legal, so you know you're looking at a name first and foremost. Okay, that's text. What have we got? Company number, let's say. So let's increase our fields by a good few. So we got our company number. Make that a text as well, and then we've got our company email and our customer facing email. So you see, like here you've got, let's just try and edit that. Yeah, so you got like this tick, same as email. The way that we will fully implement that is that if the customer facing email is empty, then we'll probably, that means it's the same as. Okay, so we'll cancel that. So customer email, customer facing email. So what we'll do is we'll put email, which is of type text again, and customer face. So what we'll do, we'll just call this email customer. Okay, that's text, and company telephone number. Okay, and that's text. And then we've got the website, which again is text. Okay, and then we go on. Then we've got company address, customer facing address, legal address. So what we'll do is we will put in address, which is text. Let's add a few more, and we'll say address customer, text, and then address legal. Okay, we don't really need to deal with any of those type of things. Yeah, okay, so we'll leave that for now as it is. Billing and subscription has just got that in there, and then we've got all sorts of different settings, but we'll sort of use those as we need them. This is just to get us started with designing our data. So okay, so that's all good. So those like are our top level things that we need to deal with. Now we need to look at as well as, let's say for example, if certain users are only allowed to use certain companies, etc. We'll deal with that later on. So what we need to do now then is look at our customer data. Now one of the first things I want to look at here before we go on, and because this is the information we're going to need for the customer, let's have a look at, I think it's under expenses where we've got supplier. So let's say add a supplier manually. The details are pretty identical. There's a few bits and bobs missing, but they're pretty much identical for what we want. So if you've watched previous videos of mine, you'll know that I like to keep my suppliers and my customers in the same type. It just makes it a lot easier. You're not having to use two different types. If you need to search through customers and suppliers, it also helps with that. So let's go and do that. So I always call this, let me drag it in. Okay, so let's drag it all the way out. We're going to need that out there. Okay, and we're going to call this business entity. If you watched any of my other videos, you would have seen me talk about business entities a lot. Right, okay, so what we need to know is all of our data types, no matter what they are in the rest of the system, have to belong to a company. Okay, so each customer, each supplier has to belong to a company. So what we do is we always have a field on every data type that hooks up to this. So then what we can say is, let's hook that up to this field. So, and you can see we're getting like a visual representation of where our data connects. Okay, and then we're going to need a name, obviously. So let's go, rather than start hammering away, let's just going to add a load of fields in there, and let's have a look at QuickBooks. So let's go back into customers and let's add a new customer. So we've got our contact information, but we've got company name and display name. So what I can do there is that's name, and I can put name display. Okay, right, and let's put these in: title, first name, middle name, last name, suffix. Okay, all right, fair enough. So what I'll do is I will precede these with contact. So I will prefix text, sorry, it's a dash that I usually use rather than an underscore. Okay, and where are we? Contact first name, again that's going to be text. Contact, should we put a middle name in? No, let's not. Let's go against the QuickBooks grain. Last name, right, suffix, come on. Okay, contact suffix. Okay, right, so the next one then we move on to, we've done these two, so it's email, phone number, right. Okay, so email, that's text, phone number is text. I know this is a little bit boring, but it's just an essential part of building an app. So we've got a mobile number, okay, cokes, mobile fax. Come on, let's do LinkedIn. Okay. If your customers are still using faxes and pulling, they're not worth dealing with. If you do still use a fax, I apologise. Okay, I work in technology, you know. other, and what was the other one? Website. Okay. Right, text. Okay, so now what we've got here is this a sub customer? So what we need to do then is, if it is, you get a chance to do that. So what we need to do then is have a field in there for a parent customer that's going to point actually to a record of itself. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to call this parent. Okay, and this is going to be the same type as itself. Wow, mind blown. Okay, so I'll just move this up if I can to the top. Right, okay. So, yep, that's it. We can do that. Now we get the address. Now addresses in Bubble are quite useful, but what I'm going to do for now, I'm just going to in terms of the way that you can store data to appear on a map is really great. We'll do that later. Let's just focus on getting the main fields in there. So we've got billing address and we've got a shipping address. So what we'll do is we've got the street address, city, county, postcode. Right, okay. Okay, so we're going to say address dash street, again text, and we're then going to say address dash city, add a few more in here. Again, it's text. I think it was county next, wasn't it? County. Postcode. And address dash country. Which is again a type text. Okay, can we copy? Will it allow us to copy all of these? No, well, we've got to do it manually. Okay, right, ship address street. Okay, let's just move that over, expand it a bit. Move these over there, that's it. Type text. This is worth doing. I know if you're not used to doing this type of thing, you might think this is just, it really is worth the effort to do this when you're designing a system, designing the data structure of your app. You will thank me later. So let's have a look what else we've got, what we're going to implement. Okay, we'll go as far as this at the minute because, like I say, these require a bit more involvement, so we'll look at those another time. So for now we'll just put notes in there. Okay, so notes is going to be of type text. Okay, so what you can actually do here is to maybe sort of point it at itself. There we go, lovely jubbly. Right, so one of the things that I've not done so far is, obviously I said that business entity is going to store our customers and our suppliers, so we need a field that's going to differentiate between those two. So we need a field called type. We'll set the type of it in a minute. Type. So how do we know what type it is? Now we could just store a text and say it's a customer or supplier. It's not really how things are done. The best way to do it is because it's going to be static. It's not going to be something that the user can define. So therefore we'll put it in an option set. So let's define that as an entity over here. And let's just spread that out a little bit. And this is going to be, we're going to call this underscore business entity type. A little bit verbose, but there you go. And obviously it doesn't have fields. It has attributes, but still the default one is display, which is obviously type of text. So what I will do to differentiate, obviously the underscore differentiates it, but I'll just stick it in italic just so that we know. We'll get rid of these other two fields, so there's just the one. So what we need to do then is that in there we're just going to have two options, which will be customer and supplier. And so what we can do is link these two up. So the type of the type field in the business entity will be underscore business entity type. Okay, and we probably need to, oops, daisy. There we go. And so then we can just hook that up if we can. Okay, we'll drag this down here just to make the diagram look a bit more readable. Okay, so it's enabled us to sort of think how we're going to do this before we start setting things up in Bubble. And so we can see just by drawing the lines between the relationships, it just makes it that much easier to read, especially if you've not looked at your app for a couple of weeks or somebody new comes to it. This is really going to help document the process. But it's important that you do keep a live, living document like this that exactly represents what you've got in Bubble. And if you just get into the habit of wireframing it out like this, that's all good. Okay. One other thing that we can put into our SaaS account actually is whether it's a trial. Okay, and that can be like a yes, no. The other thing as well, if you've got multiple plans of your SaaS application, obviously that's going to then restrict functionality within your app. You could have that and have an option set with your different plans in, and then hook that, have a field for a plan that then links up to that option set. Okay, so I think we're pretty much good with that really. So I hope that's been useful for you. And the good thing about Lucid Chart is that you can sort of export it as PDF. So what we can do next is we can look to start to put this into place, okay, as a wireframe. And again, sorry about wireframing, it makes life so much easier down the road. And then we can look to say, there's no point in having a list unless you can actually add data into it. So we'll look to implement this, okay? And we'll try and keep it as close to QuickBooks as we possibly can. This is quite good, the way that it scrolls down. Yeah, we can do that in Bubble, no problem. Yeah, we can remove it, and then it brings up like this little icon. So we've got like, yeah, well, we can go through this anyway when we come to it. But for now, we're focusing on our data. So I'm not going to bore you by putting all of that back into Bubble, but in case you've not really worked with data before, let's just start off with some things. So let's say that we say a SaaS account, okay, and then we'll create it. We really are getting into the weeds, into the meat and gravy of things now. Everything was all nice and jolly while we were just putting the navigator together before. Now we're really getting into the crux of it. So we said that we're going to have a SaaS account, we're going to have a company type. We said that we were going to have a business entity type. We've already got the user type, okay? And in option sets, we said we were going to have a business entity type, okay? So we're going to create a new option set called underscore business entity type, okay? And we only have the one attribute, but it's either going to be a customer or a supplier, okay? And then when they select it, when they add a new customer or a supplier, we can then store either one of those. And we can even allow the users to select it if that's what we wanted to do, okay? So our SaaS account, let's have a look at that. So we've got a name, as I recall. Okay, let's have a look. We've got a name, where are we? Scroll up. We've got a name and expiry date, the maximum number of companies, maximum number of users, and a trial. So name, expiry date. Where am I going? Okay, got a name and expiry date. I don't know when I'm making videos, my typing just goes to pot. Expiry date. Okay, max company, that's going to be a number, and then there was max users or max user, that's going to be a number, and the other one was trial, which is going to be a yes no. Okay. One thing to remember in Bubble is that Bubble does give you the option to document what you're doing. Okay. And sometimes, you know, when you're working on something right here and now, you know what you're doing. You leave that 2 days or a week or 2 weeks or 3 months, you come back and you're like, what the hell was that about? Why have I done that? That looks really odd. So it's always a good idea, if there's any ambiguity at all about a field, is to make sure that you document it. You can document the whole thing by clicking on that and then type your notes into there, or in the individual field as well along there. Okay. So you can also set defaults on the field. So like with it trial, I'll say no. Okay. And let's say maximum company by default is 1. Depends on how you want to do it. Let's say we got the maximum number of users by default is 3. Okay, just helps you to set defaults if that's necessary for you. Okay, so the next one is company. So again, I'm not going to do all of these purely because we've already been through it in the other one, and once you've got the wireframe out, then you can just transpose that just as I'm doing now. But we got name, which was a text, of course it is. And where are we? Okay, so we got name legal, which is a text. I don't even know why I'm thinking about that. And obviously then in here we've got our SaaS account, so we need to hook it up to a SaaS account. So okay, which is of type SaaS account. Okay, and then we're hooking that up, the relationship between the two types. Okay, and is there anything else I really wanted to address down here? No, I mean I can just put that in between the videos. I don't want to bore you with that at the minute. Let's create, the only one we're not created so far is the, well, let's have a look at this on the user. Even though that's a default type, so we don't need to create it, we do need to create this SaaS account field. So we do it in the same way as we've just done it there. We go to user, create a new field, SaaS account. Okay, and that is going to be of type SaaS account. Okay, so if you imagine when you sign up for a new account, you are signing up for a new subscription account. Okay, and then you've got the user record that you'll create, which is your login details with your user ID and password, or your email and password, and the other details as well. But that has to belong to the SaaS account, so the subscription account, if you like. So if you can imagine, when the user first signs up, what's going to happen is you've got to create a SaaS account. You're then going to create the user account, which hooks up to the SaaS account via this field, and then you're going to create a company record which represents the default company for that subscription, for that SaaS account, and that's got to then update to that one as well. Okay, so these are steps that we need to take when we get to the point of creating users and logging people, signing people up to log in. Okay, again, that's something that we will come to in the future. So okay, I think we're done in terms of what I can do there. I'll just pop these two in here. So we've got the type, but I didn't actually tell you what the pair. Oh, this was something odd to me. The website is a text, and well, wow, what happened there? Doesn't matter. Right, so on our business entity, then we obviously first of all just create the name, text. And then we've got to create the type. Okay, so we can do that. And we can see once we know what we're doing, how easy this is to just put this into Bubble. Rather than sat there looking at Bubble screen and thinking, well, how does this connect to that? We already know. Okay, so we connect it to our option set, business entity type. Well, with business entity, that's not hooked up to a SaaS account. It's hooked up to an individual company. Okay, so you can have multiple companies for each SaaS account, for each subscription. And then every data type that's then involved hooks back up to the company, so that when the user logs in and they look at a particular company, they will see just the records for that company. So we will select that as well, which is going to be of type company. And then we have the parent, which is hooking it up to itself. Where are we? Okay, so that is actually itself a business entity. Okay, so we will create a new field and we will say parent. Okay, and it is going to point to a type of itself. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how we can then flesh things out with our data. So I think we've covered a lot in this video about the best way to do it using Lucid Chart. You can use whatever you like. You can just use a pen and pad if you like, as long as you've got a basic wireframe of your data structure, you've got a copy of that's representative of the live data that you're using in Bubble, and you've got it on record. Obviously, it's easier to keep it in a file on somewhere. You can use one of the Google apps. I like this one, free trial. Well, it's free forever if you're prepared to deal with the limitations of how many entities you can put on and number of documents that you can create. But for this purpose, it's absolutely brilliant. And whenever we're doing anything with the data, we'll always come back to this. Okay, and if we're doing stuff that's kind of experimental or whatever, we will make a copy of it and work with the copy so that we've always got a copy that is live. Okay, I know I'm repeating myself a little bit. I just want to let you know exactly what's going on here. So between now and part 7 of this video series, I will flesh all of this out so that all of these different fields are in there so it represents this. Okay, there's no point in you watching me type all this out. It really doesn't make any sense, but certainly you can play along if you like. Anyway, listen, thanks for watching, thanks for sticking with me, and hopefully I will see you for part 7. Take it easy.